Now, the Women in Science Girls STEAM Camp is being held in Windhoek from the 18th till the 28th of June 2019 for all girls from all regions of Namibia. Now, the camp is being hosted at the Namibia University of Science and Technology, that's NUST, and it is co-implemented by the U.S. Embassy. Now, joining me is Professor Anicia, who is the Dean of the Faculty of Computing and Informatics at the Namibia University of Science and Technology, as well as Mrs. Loide Kapenda, who is the Chief Education Officer within the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture. Very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
I think for the sake of our viewers, how did the idea of this Women and Science Girls STEAM Camp come about?
Well, last year we were approached by the U.S. Embassy and through that the U.S. State Department to host the International Women in Science, Girls in STEAM. STEAM is for science, technology, engineering, arts and design, and mathematics. To host this camp for about 100 girls from about 5 different countries, and we had 50 different experts from Google, Intel, NASA, GoLab, etc.
Wow.
But then last year they also realized that we have local expertise who were just as good as the international experts. So then the State Department approached us to host a camp again, this time, however, only for Namibian girls, and only using Namibian expertise from our 3 universities.
Fantastic. Ms. Kapenda, as the Ministry of Education, of course, what does the ministry make of for this initiative, and what is your involvement in it?
My role in the ministry is to coordinate the mathematics and science in the country, and the take for the ministry when it comes to this activity, we really appreciate the involvement of the girls, because as we know, the science field or the STEAM field is more dominated by the men, so we would like these activities to happen more so that we can motivate the girls to participate in science subjects.
Indeed. Professor, speaking of that gap that exists within the STEAM fields, of course, how does an initiative like this bridge this gap?
Well, worldwide right now, only 35% of all science fields is occupied by women. If you look at technology, ICT in particular, you're seeing that it's only 3% occupied by women. Namibia has been enjoying quite a good balance in the past. However, in my faculty, I see that our figures for women coming into ICT is dwindling as the competition grows, because we're in digitization for places. The girls tend to fall out. And so exposing them, and we're concentrating on girls who are less exposed to science fields, who don't have the opportunity usually. And so it's amazing when you speak to them, when you start just telling them about the fields, telling them that actually, you know, that women are very technical in general, and that the world's first programmers, etc., were women. If you start telling them about that, then you see a lot of confidence building, and then we do actually have, you pique that interest, and Mrs. Kapenda can probably talk about what happens in the schools after the camps.
Yeah, I think Mrs. Kapenda, you can just pick up from there.
You know, once you expose the girls to mathematics and science, field related or in STEM subject, then you can see the person who feels motivated taking part in the subject, and they are also motivated to talk to others, convincing them to take this STEM subjects.
And I'm glad that we have moved away from the STEM and moved to STEAM, which is of course now science, technology, engineering, arts and design. Why is it so important to add arts and design in this particular initiative?
From the ministry side, one can say that the inclusion of art and design, it's really stressing the application of the knowledge which they are learning in other science fields into art. Because when you look at the art, you have maybe the child can look at the design and use the mathematical skills or science skills to come up with something which can really be impressive.
Fantastic indeed. Professor, just looking at last week, of course, the first week of this camp, how would you round things up as we head into the last week of the camp here?
Well, during the first week, the first 2 days, they spent actually at Noida. And so they were looking at food sciences. Then they came back to NUST, and they spent the last days, they were exposed to coding workshops, they were exposed to engineering and social sciences as well. And we are sharing between them going to UNAM and then them coming to NUST. This week we'll see them, today they will be at UNAM, they will be learning about biochemistry and chemistry. Then they will come back to NUST for engineering, technology, and architecture. Now, one of the things that they're also doing is that in the evenings we are bringing in mentors, Namibian women mentors, who can actually encourage them a bit. And tonight, I hope that Lioness will be visiting them, because she's the perfect combination of a STEAM girl.
Yes, who's a doctor and, of course, a musician.
Yes, I call her Dr. Lioness. I hope she's okay with that.
Just looking at, of course, how many girls are partaking in this camp in total?
64 girls from all of the regions. And again, Mrs. Kapenda, who's been involved with the schools during the selection process and also the application processes, can speak to that.
Yes, very much true. What criteria were you looking at here in terms of the selection of these girls from the various schools?
We are organizing this activity with our focal persons in the regions, and we have the people that are responsible for girls. They have a list of girls that are coming from disadvantaged communities, and we motivate them when we have activities like this to motivate the girls to apply for these activities.
Fantastic.
Unfortunately, this year we have 3 regions that are not participating, which is Ohangwena, Kunene, and Omaheke. And we really motivate them, those 3 regions, that once we have these activities, they should motivate the girls to take part in the activities so that they can be informed.
I think also a very important thing to note is, of course, how does this camp tie in with, other camps hosted in countries like Ethiopia, Kosovo, Estonia, as well as Oregon? I don't know who should I pose that question to.
Well, as I mentioned, last year we had the international camp, which was the 4th camp so far, especially for the African region. So the Ethiopian camp is now this year the site for that particular camp that we had last year. Then the Oregon camps and the Kosovo camps are also for different other regions within the world. And I must say that the Namibia camp in its current form is really a trendsetter, because, as I say, it's the first time that it's actually the 2nd time hosted in the same country. And it is also the first time that it's hosted, that it's organized and conducted by experts from that country, and only for the Namibian girls.
Indeed. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and good luck with the last week of the WiSci. Is it called the WiSci camp?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, WiSci camp. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There you have it. That was Mrs. Loide Kapenda, who is the Chief Education Officer within the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture, as well as Professor Anicia, who is the Dean of the Faculty of Computing and Informatics at NUST, talking to us this morning about the WiSci camp, where 64 girls from various that is regions and schools within the country are, of course, partaking in very interesting science-related stuff. As you've heard Professor Peters mention, of course, they will be visiting the University of Namibia, as well as look at engineering at the Namibia University of Science and Technology. So I must commend them, of course, for this brilliant initiative, and I'm sure that the girls are learning a lot. Do stay with us. The 7 o'clock news is coming up.